Here's the thing with Vault Hunters. There's been too much discussion about my aim to make the game for elitists. That's not my aim with Vault Hunters. I think, Dylan, we can all agree, and I think this is important to have said. I don't care if it sometimes gets too easy in Vault Hunters. I want I enjoy it when it's like, it should feel good. It's so damn good to get like a lucky crit or a big fireball killing multiple mobs. It's a feel good. And I like the fact that when the player feels overpowered, I think it's cool. The difficulty in Vault Hunters is not in the single fight. It's in all of these things combined. Managing your resources, managing your inventory, managing your Minecraft part of the game, fighting the mobs, sure. You know, it's all of these things, and it's so important to me that it saddens me to think that people actually think that I'm building this for the elite players. I really wish that people knew this. It would mean so much. Like, I'm not building this game in order to target elites. We're not balancing the game around any SMP members. Because if we did, to be honest with you, I would maybe triple the difficulty of bingos. Yeah, I would make it a damn chase to get, you know, one bingo. Because I think that would be fun content. And the game is to be played on normal. Your vault difficulty on your server or in your world that you set over here in single player should be set to normal. Like, that's how you should play. That's what the game is balanced around. And if you play on harder, yeah, you can present yourself with a challenge, but it's up to you. So I just want to ensure everyone else, because there is a worry in the community at the moment, and I hate that. The whole dungeon proposal change, etc., it's not made to make the hardcore elitist players feel better. It's not. It's made for a lot of reasons. This is how I look at the game development. I look at it from a perspective of having the game be balanced for the majority of the player. And I would like to say this as well, to wrap this up. I would like to say that to all of those of you who genuinely think that I'm out to get you, or that I'm like trying to ruin your day, or trying to make the game difficult for you specifically by, you know, the dungeon talks that we had, and by changing things and all of these things. Look, what gain can I possibly have to make your day bad? I would never. Like, what gain do I have to make Vault Hunters not enjoyable for you? It's quite the opposite, right? I have everything to gain from getting as many people to enjoy the game as possible, but at the same time I have a responsibility to make sure that the game balances exist and that super metas are deleted. This has always been the case. Ever since the first version of Vault Hunters, I have been chasing down and trying to make this game as diverse as possible. And if I'm honest, I'm pretty proud of where we've got together. Like, I'm pretty proud of the spread meta. I don't think that any one build exists in this game at the moment. I don't think that it is crystal clear to go Poison Nova Toxic Reaction build. I think it has its own challenges. I don't think it's crystal clear to go AD Lucky Hit Frost build, which I know is a popular build. I don't think it's crystal clear to go Lucky Hit Rampage Cleave build like I'm doing now. So for anyone ever questioning, and there's been a lot, the reason I'm saying this is because there's been a lot the last few days. I'm just being honest, guys. I'm just keeping it real. There's been a lot of people that have actually outed and said, like, look, Iskall, you're trying to ruin the game. Once again, you know, this is quotes from Discord even. Once again, Iskall is just trying to ruin the fun. Of course I'm not. I'm not a psychopath. Like, I want you guys to have fun. But at the same time, as I say, I have a responsibility to make sure that there is not a single strong super meta. Because if there is, then, if anything, you are forced to play the game that way. I wrote something down earlier. Just going to go through the proposed dungeon changes once again so that everyone is on the same page. Because I do think, from today's discussion on the Discord, I do think that there is a lot of misunderstanding still. So here we go. The current proposed changes to dungeons in update 15 part 2 is as follows. You can place blocks and you can break the place blocks in dungeons going forward. We are going to try and remove breaking pre-generated full blocks in dungeons, and that has nothing to do with anti-cheese or anything like this. That is all to do with the ability of building more diverse dungeons with bigger hallways or smaller hallways where we don't have to use bedrock in between. So in that work comes a lot of work for us. We have to make sure that like carpets and stuff like this isn't ruining pathfinding. We are removing, there's a bug currently where you can actually break the fizzle spawners before you get all the waves, and that's going to go away. That bug is going to be fixed. They will still fizzle. We will be adding a new difficulty. We will call it easy, or we won't call it easy, but it will be below normal. But I want to call it something that doesn't feel bad. And there's a possibility that I change it so that normal becomes hard and hard becomes challenging and all of these things. And hopefully we can also get like an indicator of difficulty using skulls or something like that. We will lower the rate of impossible dungeons from 20% to 5%. We will lower the rate of extreme dungeons from 20% to 10%. We will look at making dungeons appear differently with your level progression. So for example, maybe dungeons at level 20 are only zombie dungeons. At level 30 you start finding skeleton dungeons. At level 40 maybe pillager dungeons. At level 50 piglin dungeons. And level 60 spider dungeons. Just so that you kind of eased into it a little bit. We're going to remove the current dungeon chests and unlink them with bingo tasks. And instead we're going to include dungeon barrels. I haven't fully thought these out yet, but I got cool designs for them. Danny has been working. And the loot inside those barrels will not be scaling with the difficulty. However, you're free to loot them without killing the mobs or anything like this. The scaled loot will remain, but we will move it from the chests to the mobs. So if you want to have the 5 times ornate rolls, if you want to have the 500% item rarity, then you need to kill the mobs. And they will drop directly from the mobs. You don't have to do anything else. Because you can place blocks, you're also welcome to block mobs off. You can build barriers. You can do whatever you want. That is Minecrafty. But in order to get a counter play in here, mobs will get a thorn effect, which it's going to take a little bit of balancing to get it figured out so that it's not horrible. And this thorn effect will only apply if the mob has a blocked path AI. So if they cannot get to the player and is hit at least 3 times, then they will start thorning. And their thorns damage is going to be their attack damage in half. So if you feel like it's too scary to fight the mobs head on, which I fully understand, it is scary, specifically in the environment of a dungeon, then it's encouraged to block them off and hit their feet, because they actually deal less damage to you that way than if they hit you on hit. And the theory behind this is to allow it for all players. And the theory is also there to ensure that you spend a little bit of time, right, to block him off, to build like a whatever it is you do. And because of that time spent, we have a trade-off for the damage. This also allows you, because there are 3 free hits, technically if you do a lot of damage, you can block off mobs and kill them without them ever hitting you back. In addition, there will be players that still don't want to do dungeons, and for those players we are introducing archive scrolls, which will be found in the black market at a reasonable price. They will probably be quite expensive, but you'll be able to buy an archive scroll, a one-time use, and get an archive unlock through the scroll. These are, as of 2 days ago, the proposed dungeon changes. This should make sure that the game balance is intact. And let me talk a little bit quickly about game balance, because there will always be the people asking, now, why are you doing any of this, iskall? Why can't I just pillar over the mobs and grab the chests? It's my game. I can play it the way I want. Well, when you think about game balance, you have to think about the cascading effects the game balance has, right? So, of course, it's easy to understand why this mechanic is bad on a server, because basically now you're pushing beyond the speed of the intended progression of the game by looting these super chests for free without extra risk, or without a lot of extra risk. And that can hurt your server members, you know, who doesn't do that. And so you may say, well, I'll just tell them to do it as well. Yeah, but then my counter to that is, why do we have dungeons in the first place? Why not just have, you know, a setting where you can just, quote, you know, get 5 times the loot from every chest? The second part, if you're now playing single player and think about this, is that you're actually throwing off the game balance for yourself. My job here is to design a game that works and is complete also in single player. So even if you do this in single player, everything else doesn't scale as fast. This means that every single ornate POI, every single treasure room, every single castle or X-mark room, if we talk ornate chest only, becomes less attractive and not at all as good. You're not going to need them. You're not going to interact with that part of the game. And I think because of that, very quickly, you've cascaded the imbalance in your own game to a point where it's no longer fun or exciting for you to play in your world. I think so. And you can argue, well, I only play for a week and then I'm done. Okay, fair enough. At that point, I do really recommend to play arcade mode, get yourself some free gear whenever you need it, these kind of things, just to make sure that you get that arcade feeling for that week. Because I get it. Sometimes I want to play a Vault Hunter World only for the weekend with an in real life friend who's never played Minecraft, right? But so anyway, that's the way I look at this, and in no way am I trying to, ever make the game less fun for you guys. In no way am I trying to exclude casual players. That's been a lot of criticism saying, oh, iskall is ruining the casual players. I heavily encourage people to use the difficulty system in the game, and maybe we need to rename it. Maybe normal needs to become hard. Maybe easy needs to become normal, whatever. I'm all for that. But with all of these things considered and planned, I actually think that this will make Vault Hunters a better game for casual players. Because I think that more casual players are going to go into dungeons with this change. I think so. I actually think so, yeah. And I think that the archives are going to be more accessible to casual players because they will be found outside dungeons as well. And to anyone who I've offended, I'm sorry. I gotta design my game, man. I gotta do it. And I understand that I won't please 100%, but hopefully we reach 80%. And in those 80%, there's a hell of a lot of casual players. There are a lot of people with lower skill level than others. And I want all of you on board. Let's all get on the train. Let's all game and have fun. May I ask, will the new dungeons barrel drop scav items or the mobs or nothing in the dungeon? Not decided yet. It's a good question. It's something we have to think about. But I will say this. With the new dungeon barrels, there is a huge opportunity to make more bingo tasks. And the more bingo tasks we can have, the more diverse each bingo run will be. And the more exciting each bingo run will be, in my opinion. You can still become much better at it. You can still learn. But there is a chance for doing things like that. Currently, I think that, if I'm completely honest, I think the best way to complete a bingo or to black out a bingo is definitely to put a dungeon capstone on your crystal or to know dungeon locations and just go for dungeons. I believe, in average, you can probably complete 40 to 60% of the tasks using dungeons. We're talking all the coin ones, all the ornate ones, all the living ones, all the gilded tasks. That's 4 per each task group, by the way. And that's a lot. You usually have a few of those, right? We're talking dungeon mobs, of course. Yeah. So I think it's a good change to separate dungeon loot into their own sort of objective. I think so. Does this not mean that spiders will always thorn you when stuck in a corner / block? No, so in regards of the thorns, I've seen already on Discord when I announced this that there is a lot of concern. There are a lot of concerns from people saying, oh, thorns will never work. It's gonna. Actually, someone pretty respected in the community actually replied, "This is stupid because thorns is not gonna work." And let's see, right? That's on us. That's on the team to figure out and to make sure that it works so that it's satisfying, so that it doesn't feel unfair for the player. And things like spiders getting stuck in a corner, can they pathfind to the player? Yeah, they can. Are they pathfinding to the player? No, because they're kind of dumb. If it would come to it where spiders don't actually, we can't actually figure out the code, well, it's an easy solution. We'll remove thorns from spiders, right? So, all I ask with the Thorns thing is like, be a little bit patient. Let us work this out. Let's see what we can do, right? And I'm pretty confident in that we can get it to a good place. My developers are super skilled. They are very good at what they do, and I'm sure we can get there. No, let's not worry about things that aren't there to be worried about yet. I am also playing the game. This is my entire life, guys. I don't want the game to be feeling unfair. I don't want to walking in doing a Poison Nova behind a locked door and a mob starts hurting you and you don't know where it is. Like, that's awful. That's terrible. That's not what we're looking for here. What if you rethink it all? Make the dungeons charge up a meter while hostile mobs has passage. The longer you hold, the better the loot. That's interesting, yeah.